Hello and welcome to RJI Insight, where we put a spotlight on some of the programs, projects, and research here at the Reynolds Journalism Institute that help journalism get better, faster, and smarter. Our guest today is Tim Stauffer, who's managing editor of the Iola Register in southeast Kansas. We're glad you're here, and welcome to RJI Insight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So the first question is, why don't you tell us a little bit about the idea that you brought here to share with everybody?
Well, when I think about local journalism today, I think a lot of what we do is educational. We are trying always to educate our audience, to inform them, to connect them, to make better decisions about the future of their communities. A key partner for us in that work is our local school districts. We have 2 in our county, 3 actually, and then we have a local community college. And we've been working to partner with these school districts on a variety of levels, of course, in terms of what we cover, but also to deepen our relationships and include a financial element so that they're helping sustain the coverage that we offer them.
So how is that going? There's some specific programs that you're getting off the ground?
Yep, it's worked in terms of mental health is a big issue in rural America. We know that, especially in agricultural communities, there's a mental health crisis. And so we've been working with our local school district, USD 257, to provide a publication for student-centered work. It's called Writing Our Way Out. To fund that, we co-wrote a grant with the local school district and applied with our community foundation and got that successfully funded. But then it's also about providing access to our website in the classroom, removing the paywall, and helping the local school district see our website and our print product as an educational tool. Media literacy in today's world, AI slop is everywhere. There are a lot of bad actors out there who are trying actively to spread disinformation. And so we need to join our educational partners in fighting that. And that starts in the classroom. It continues with the print product that they can take home, and then also with the print product that they can produce themselves. And so that's kind of been our 1, 2, 3 process with that. We're working on our spring publication of Writing Our Way Out now. Hope to have that before the school year ends. I've got to get going on it.
Right.
But the idea there is really to join forces, to see ourselves as allies with our local school districts, and then with the revenue to have them see us as partners. We're desperate for funding mechanisms that are long-term, and I think school boards and school districts appreciate the work that we do and are willing to be partners with us. Yeah,
and in terms of access to the online content to get around the paywall, you have some IP-related issues that were helpful?
Yep. We use WordPress as the back end of our website, and so there's a variety of plugins that you can use that will help whitelist your paywall depending on the IP address or the wireless network. But there are other ways to do that, and that helps teachers from memorizing 18 passwords for 18 kids, and then 14 of the kids always forget their passwords. I was a former teacher, so I remember those days of every kid somehow conveniently not being able to do the activity because he or she forgot the password. And so the idea there is to make it simple, to make it easy for teachers to just plop a link into Google Classroom or whatever they're using and have that link be available for students to access. When they go home and they're off of that wireless network, then things go back to normal and they have to access that content. But I want them talking about what they learned and what they read in our paper with their parents. I want them talking about it in class. I want them being our next generation of readers. We need that. A lot of kids don't grow up with the morning paper on their table right next to the coffee and orange juice that they used to have. The world's different, but we can still be part of their media consumption. We need to, because otherwise some random manosphere bro dude is just going to be in their feed and take up the oxygen in the room, and that's what's happening right now. It's just, I'm not trying to be mean, but a lot of it is really low quality stuff, and so we need to be fighting for our own existence with these students.
Yeah, and I think the whitelisting goes a long way to do that, to help them. And it was not that hard to set up?
It was easy. It was very easy to set up. I didn't do it. I had our website guys, guys and gals figure it out. I don't know how to do that stuff, but I know what needs to be done. And I think a lot of us are in the same boat. We may not know the code to write or the plugin that we need, but the concept's there. And if you can establish those partnerships, I feel like that part is the hardest part of the puzzle.
Yeah, I think so. And so what's next for the relationship with the school districts? I know you have to get that printed thing done.
We do. Working on that. I need to expand the partnership to more school districts. I need to make the case also so that regionally other newspapers are doing this. I feel like news is an ecosystem. If my paper's great, but the papers around us are weak, more and more people get the idea that we're the exception and that news is still dying and that local news is on its last legs. Mm-hmm. We had a local newspaper in our region cut down from 5 days a week print to 2. Guess how many subscribers we got from that? 0. We didn't get anybody. All it does is it reinforces the idea that newspapers suck. And so the idea there is that strong papers build strong papers. We need competition. We need collaborators. We need both, right? And we find that in news organizations that are robust, that are thriving, that are doing well. And so I feel like part of this conference, part of how I'm starting to understand our job as a daily newspaper in Southeast Kansas is to help more papers be successful. Mm-hmm. We need it for ours as well. This is mutual success. Otherwise, it's mutual destruction.
Yes. Well, I couldn't have said it better. Many hands make light work, right?
Exactly.
That's great. Yeah. Corinne Colbert is co-founder and editor-in-chief of the Athens County Independent. Welcome to RJI Insight.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Let's talk about the idea that you brought here to share with everybody else upstairs.
One of the things that we do well at the Athens County Independent in Southeast Ohio is our branding. And so in my presentation, I talked about the idea that your brand is not your logo. That is a symbol in the same way that the American flag is a symbol of the United States. Your brand is the public's perception of who you are, how they feel about you because of the work that you do, the way you present yourself to them, and just how all of that comes together to build a reputation. So we are very well known for our logo, which is an opossum. And the reason the possum works for us is because our brand is about authenticity, about being rooted in community, about being Appalachian. And, if we had a very different brand and had that possum logo, that wouldn't work, because people would say that doesn't add up to who you say you are versus what you're actually presenting to us. And that brand is so important in seeking funding from your community, from funders, from your community members, from advertisers, because you're asking them to give you their money, and they want to give their money to a project, an organization that stands for something. And that brand is what you stand for. If your brand doesn't match, you're going to have a hard time raising revenue, because particularly in rural America, people can smell fakery. And so being true to who you are through your brand is a huge invisible asset in how you raise money.
Do you think a lot of folks have issues with trying to come up with a good brand? I
do. I had the advantage of not always having been a journalist, so I've worked in marketing and PR, and I actually wrote a book about marketing for business incubator professionals, and I learned then what a brand and what branding was all about, and I brought that in as a co-founder of the Independent. As journalists, since so many organizations are started by and run by people who've been journalists, without other opportunities or other experience, thinking about those things, we tend to laser focus on the work and not how that work is perceived and how our mission and vision and values combine with that work and our actions in the community to build a perception and how that perception affects our ability to raise revenue. So that was something that I feel strongly about and something really that I think that we do very well, and I wanted to share that with other people.
And how's it going? How is the possum doing for you?
The possum is Scoop. We actually had a Name That Possum contest for our members.
Okay.
And so they got to submit names, and happily Scoop was the winner, because for the longest time the leading contender was Petunia. And I did not want to be part of an organization represented by Petunia the possum. No, considering that, especially that we are serving the poorest county in the poorest part of Ohio, and in our first 2 years of operation, before we even had a business or revenue person, we raised $500,000 in contributed revenue in grants by leaning into our brand and what we stand for and the things that we're doing. And I don't think if we'd had that presence and that thought process behind how all of this works together, I don't think we would have been nearly as successful.
That's great. All right.
They're pretty happy.
Yeah. Well, Scoop's doing good for you.
Scoop is doing really, really well for us, and folks love Scoop.
John Montgomery is CEO of the Detroit-based Issue Media Group. So tell us about your idea that you brought here that you're doing up in Michigan.
So our idea is to grow a publication we started 3 or 4 years ago called Rural Innovation Exchange. And it's a digital-only rural news publication that serves all of Michigan. So it's a little unique. Like I said, we started 3 or 4 years ago. We think it has a lot more potential, both in terms of growing audience and in terms of doing more journalism about rural communities, rural economies, rural culture. And so we would like to first see how we can grow that publication, make it stronger, and then we think it's a model that can be planted in other states as well. And so, for example, maybe next doing one of those in Indiana.
All right.
Yeah.
So now, what was the inspiration for that?
The inspiration for the product?
Yeah.
It was, a lot of what Issue Media Group, as our name implies, is we write about issues, and some of the issues we write about are entrepreneurism and the creative culture and economy, economic development, community development. And so we've typically operated in urban markets. We started in Detroit, but we recognize that Michigan has a lot of rural communities that are where there are big ideas and there's vitality and there's new things happening, and we thought that was something that wasn't being covered.
Yeah, I think that's one of the challenges I think with rural news is that you're covering a lot of ground. So a lot of, that's a question is how do you do it? How can you cover like that much space?
Yeah.
And I guess 3 or 4 years you guys are figuring it out.
Yeah, and the other thing is I think that rural journalism has been a little bit monolithic over the years. I started at the Hutchinson News as an intern in Kansas, in the middle of Kansas, and I remember as an intern calling all the grain elevators to get their grain prices every week, and so it's been, when you think rural journalism, sometimes you think ag. And yeah, ag's very important, but there's also a lot more to the economy and the culture of rural communities, and that's been our focus.
Yeah. So you're thinking maybe Indiana, what would that be in the plan this year or next year?
Kind of thinking that we really solidify, strengthen Rural Innovation Exchange in Michigan this year, and then next year look at an expansion to Indiana.
All right. You can learn more about RJI's Rural Revenue Workshop and other programs on our website, rjionline.org. From the RJI studio, I'm Randy Picht. Thanks for watching.